This is absolutely Essendon, the Bombers YouTube fan channel that helps absorb the gut punch when reality bites. Hard. It was very hard. The Bombers going down to the Bulldogs by 91 points, a measly 91 points. It was a real demolition job. Most of the Bomber fans left at three-quarter time. If this was the acid test, then our structure collapsed like rotten teeth in an episode of Breaking Bad. Therapy is in session. All right, welcome back. I've got to say, though, off the bat, you look like you've come from a meeting where the word stakeholders was used to excess. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, a lot of on the same page.
Let's double-click on that.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Circling back.
Yes. Let's unpack that.
I think we should socialise these thoughts amongst the team. A lot of that.
Yeah, let's take this offline.
And actually, I got away with just community service too, which was very good.
Oh, okay.
Down there at the Magistrates Court today. So
very good.
Yeah,
as usual, the courts are too lenient.
They are.
Way too lenient.
I'm back on the streets.
Victims get no love.
Back on the streets.
Well,
I'll tell you what, who should be put in front of the Magistrates Court after their performance on the weekend? That is the mighty Flying Bombers. They were missing in action, I felt. I don't know about you.
Well, first of all, I don't think anyone's dying of shock, right? So we went into the game as massive underdogs. So no one was no one's shocked with a loss. I suppose it's a loss of that magnitude because it, as I said in my intro, it was a demolition. But what was sort of a little odd was that we started the game in the first 9 minutes. I think it was a bit of a tussle. We weren't so bad, and so I thought, well, maybe we're in this. We're up for the fight. But yeah, so 9 minutes in, okay. I think it was 2 points all. End of the first quarter, game over.
Yeah. Now, look, if there was a T20 version of footy, we would be fantastic at it. We're good for the first 10 overs. But, yeah, I know what you mean. And I think, to be fair, there was a couple of dodgy umpiring decisions. I'm going to be honest. I'm not blaming them, of course.
Yeah.
You don't blame the umps for a 90-point loss. But when it mattered early in the game, there was just a couple holding the ball decisions, which were very deflating. They actually scored a goal off one of them. And, yeah, I think our boys are a little bit fragile when it comes to that sort of thing. And just once the horse had bolted, and boy, did it bolt, they were just without any ideas.
You're right. It is disheartening. And maybe it didn't make one iota of difference.
No, it did.
Not just maybe. It probably didn't.
Yeah.
But still, it is, as you say, it's just disheartening when that happens so early in the game.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, it was bad at the first quarter and hoping for a response in that second quarter. Something didn't happen.
No, it really didn't. And unlike the previous weeks where we had got out of the blocks pretty well and then faded in the second half, I think we just faded completely from the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, we kicked 5 goals for the game. That's a pretty disappointing effort. But as you quite rightly said, I don't think there's a lot of surprised people. No. I don't think the only ones that are having a crack are the smarties online and go, you got ahead of yourselves again, Essendon. I don't think we ever got ahead of ourselves. Certainly the club didn't. And to be fair, Brad Scott's continually played that, we're still got a lot to work on, and he was right.
Yeah, he very much so. I think it was because during the week there were people like Kane Corns that came out and said, I'm all in on Essendon, and that sort of got the headlines because he was talking about the fact that, they've got a great captain who's, locked in long term. There's a coach who's also locked in. They're looking good for the draft over the next 2 years. And so, he built a little case. Does he believe it? Absolutely not.
We're looking a lot better for the draft after that game.
It's just, but it's just a bit of clickbait. And then everyone else jumps on it, and then it just becomes its own thing. But really, we were never getting ahead of ourselves.
Were we ever guilty of getting ahead of ourselves? On this humble show?
I will say this, that win against the Swans, you...
Me?
You. Well, you did... you did come in because there were people already saying, "Oh, very concerning signs." Second half, only kicked 2 goals, wheels fell off, ran into the sand, all that sort of stuff. And you were quick to say, the number of players under 23, and there was, and all these sort of stats.
None of which changed.
No,
by the way.
True.
The only thing that changed was the opposition was much better.
Yes, and I suppose that's the point here as well, is that we faced a clinical opposition.
Yeah.
They were ruthless.
They were fantastic, and let's be honest, we'd already identified that. Most of the AFL world had identified that they were a team to watch out for. And, with a lot of players missing too. I mean, they had no Jamara, they had no Sam Darcy, they had no Cody Waitman, is it Treloar, Adam Treloar?
Treloar, yes.
And on it goes. So let's be fair here. They were fantastic. And I tell you what, they've got a great player in that Ed Richards. He's a fantastic player. Yeah. And, of course, Bailey Dale went for the Don Bradman average in that game.
We made him look like Nick Dacos, didn't we?
He went even past Nick Dacos. I mean, the guy has literally got gout in his right foot or left foot after that many possessions. So, they were in a different league. Let's be honest, different league.
Yeah. So I don't know if there is much merit in poring over the statistics, because I imagine most of them ain't that great. So,
it's funny.
Do you think we can learn anything?
No, it's funny she mentioned the word merit. He had an absolute stinker. I can't remember a game where Zach Merritt was as non-visual, not there.
But he should be allowed to have that.
Of course he can, but
he didn't lay a tackle, I don't think.
Well, I mean, he only had, I think he had less than 20 possessions. He had no impact at all on the game, but he certainly wasn't alone. But can I just say, there's always a silver lining.
Oh,
and
not today, buddy.
And the silver lining is we're seeing some positive signs. And I just want to talk a little bit about a couple of those before we move on to different things. Archie Roberts, what was this, game 10? He was fantastic, I thought. He had 29 disposals, 303 metres gained, 7 contested possessions. This kid, I tell you what, by the time he plays 100 games, he's going to be an animal. A lot of people have been bagging Ben Mackay. Do you mind if I go on here?
No, I just want to pull you up.
Okay.
I would like to double-click on that point, please, with Archie Roberts, because he has been copying a bit of flack, saying that he was ineffectual in the game and made a lot of mistakes, poor choices.
80% disposal efficiency.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. So why do you think he's copying that flack? Because everyone just remembers the one mistake and not the 10.
I've seen
impacts.
people ripping into Will Setterfield. I actually had him as one of our best players.
Yeah.
I thought Ben Mackay was showing something. He had, I think, 9 intercept possessions in the game, highest on the ground for intercepts.
Yeah.
So, in and amongst the sort of debris of that game, there was some signs that, players that we have picked on a little bit this year, like Mackay, was showing something. I thought Durham was very good in that game, had a lot of contested possession. But we were just blown off the park. And that's not indicative of exactly where we are as a team. We're better than that. They were just absolutely white hot. And, they got us on a day where we weren't. So, what I learnt from that game is, to be very honest, I don't think we're better than a bottom 4 or 5 team. And our percentage is currently the 3rd worst in the competition.
Surely we're bottom 6. Don't give me bottom 4. Surely, come on.
Well, I mean, if we're bottom 6, I'd rather be bottom 4. I'd rather get a better draft pick.
Right, so that's just where you.
But I mean,
that's what you're angling for.
Why try and sort of squeeze out a couple of tight wins just to finish 11th, 12th, 13th, when you might as well, at this point in time, given where we are as a list build, you might as well finish in the bottom 4. It's not a great draft this year from all reports, but you're always going to get something decent in the top 5. So,
I just look, we're always going to disagree about this, but I do agree that yes, we all want a team that's more killer, less filler. And at the moment, yes, maybe there is a bit of filler, but surely why wouldn't we focus on making sure that in the meantime we don't lose by 91 points?
Don't think it matters. I mean, you've got to learn from those losses. I tell you what, the team would have learnt more about themselves losing that game than they would have winning over West Coast or North by a couple of points. I think there was so much to see about what we've got to do better as a team. And I think I'd like to talk a little bit about that, actually, because what I found is in that game, one thing stood out for me. We could not land a tackle. We could not put a guy down on the turf, pin him in, stop the ball getting out. Every time we tackled, they just managed to slippery eel themselves out of it and keep the ball moving.
Or keep it, yes, they did, and it was quite frustrating. And, it made me think, I don't know if you have this, but I had moments where I think, if I was coach, what would I do? And it was along the lines of, those movies where they give a really important job to an idiot? It was like that. Generally, it's the President of the United States, and the guy fumbles at first, and then all of a sudden, somehow, miraculously, he does a great job in that role. Yeah. And anyway, so
I think there's been a movie like that, hasn't there?
There's one. There's been 200 of them. Anyway, that's not the point.
Does Steve Martin get the job?
Chris Rock's done one. Kevin Kline's done one.
Okay. Kevin Kline,
it's generally a comedic role. I think Jim Carrey.
Michael Douglas. With Annette Bening?
No, because he's too cool.
No, he
really wasn't.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's got to be a fumbling idiot. Anyway, so coming back to me thinking, what would I do as coach? And I think, what would I do? Because I'm a big believer in focus on one thing, and that gets you a solid foundation. So if you want to avoid by losing 91 points, I'd be telling the players, I want every one of you to nail 3 tackles. But you've got to nail the tackle, not just be shrugged off and then they get the ball away. Just give me that for the game. Don't worry about anything else.
So why couldn't they lay those tackles? Why were the Bulldogs players able to shake loose or break away from those tackles and keep the ball moving in their direction?
Not enough time in the weights room?
Is that it?
Do we have a weights room?
So you're saying that we're not strong enough?
I don't know. Seems like the only thing getting jacked is the price of membership.
True that. And the other thing I wanted to comment on is that when the Bulldogs did have the ball, they were so direct with it. They just aimed it forward down the middle of the ground, and we're able to successfully pick out players in their forward 50 again and again. Whereas, when we got the ball, it was that classic sideways movement, looking around, looking backwards. There was just never any confidence amongst the players to pick out the killer pass to someone in the corridor. They just felt too scared to take that chance. And eventually we just got picked off, from over-possessing the ball.
Yeah, definitely we're an over-possession side. And they...
Is there a name for that?
They took advantage of that. But I cannot tell you the stomach ulcers that gives me when you watch them just prance through the middle of the ground so easily. The seas parting like they did for Moses. And then as soon as we mark the ball, it's a quick look upfield, and then within 1.3 seconds, they're looking to the side or back. It's so hard to watch.
Well, that's got to be coaching, right? It's got to be game plan where, you get the ball, but you've got no options. And, I saw that on numerous occasions during the game where our guys would get the ball, sort of between the wing and the half-back flank and look up the field. There was just no one there. There was no forwards.
But is that players not running enough for their teammates? And because I think someone raised that in the press conference to Brad Scott, and he said, "Oh no, our running numbers are they're elite."
Yeah, well, they were chasing all night. Yeah,
he said they were just as that they were still pretty high. But yes, I'd love to know the reason. I'm sure there'll be comments and.
It was simply a fact that the opposition had the ball more than we did, and we were constantly chasing. No wonder our GPS numbers are up. I mean, we were playing Ringa Rosie, chasing Bontempelli and Dale and these guys around the football field. I mean, and just another thing, I want to say this, given the dominance that the Bulldogs showed during that game, they were pretty brutal. They had 16 tackles inside their forward 50 to our 5. Now, that's keeping the ball in play. That's allowing your forwards to have a second bite of the cherry. We just were not applying any pressure whatsoever in our forward 50. And, pretty much around the ground. But when we did apply pressure again, we couldn't nail it. We couldn't stopped them in their tracks, and too often the Bulldogs guys were able to go 360 in a tackle and handball it off to somebody running past. So
on that point, and speaking of defensive tactics, so the last few weeks, I think, we've had, some pretty low scores that we've kept the opposition to. Didn't necessarily score ourselves, and you kind of need to do that, though. But we did just to secure those victories. But, our defence kind of held up okay.
Yeah.
They obviously let through a lot of goals, but as you're saying, I don't think it was necessarily their fault. It was what was happening up the ground, in the middle of the ground, and just the defensive pressure in the forward 50 especially, which has been an ongoing problem, but it was really, really highlighted on the weekend.
So we got some issues. I mean, I think our forwards, like Caddy, I thought was okay, but he was getting a lot of the ball upfield, he pushing up to try and get possession. I have a little bit of a concern with Isaac Kako. I think he may need to be managed a little. He's a young kid. He's played, 9 games straight now. He may need a little time just to sort of recover and rejuvenate. He was ineffective, probably his worst game.
Yeah.
And he was just running, I thought he was just running in circles. He was not running to position. Needs a bit of work on that. But then, guys like Langford, he's just had a really disappointing season so far. Perkins, who's been okay for us this year, I think he got a goal against the Bulldogs, but that was pretty much it, did nothing else. So that forward line, and it hasn't really been able to pile on big scores anyway, even in the wins. But against a high-quality opposition, they looked lost at sea. So, not to be... Look, we know where we are. I've already made the point. I think we're a team that's probably going to do well to finish bottom 4. But, there's a clear gulf in terms of quality between us and a team that's going to, I think, be a top 4 side for sure, maybe even better.
It certainly feels like it. But, with Langford, it is becoming a bit of a concern. He's no longer King Kyle. He's lost any sort of royal distinction.
He's just a local councillor Kyle now.
Definitely.
Barely. But, I think it was a really disappointing game, but we move on. And, of course, it was only the first weekend in the Sir Doug Nicholls round, the Indigenous round, and we've got the game against Richmond this week, which I think is probably worth some discussion because, oh golly, oh gee, losing by 90 points to the Bulldogs, I'm kind of okay with that, but to lose to Richmond, which I think is a distinct possibility, that would be one that really hurts, and that would be the one I'd be more alarmed about.
Yeah, I would agree. That's going to sting a lot. Richmond, of course, just lost to North Melbourne over the weekend, and if you recall, the week before, we were in WA and just beat West Coast. And so if you kind of line that up with our form of the last few weeks, where we just got over the line against West Coast and North Melbourne, then one would suggest it's going to be quite the tussle. And I think we could... I wouldn't be shocked if we lose that. And yes, it's going to sting way more.
I mean, I know we typically get more views on our channel when Essendon's had a bad loss. I'm sure there's a saying for that. Misery loves company.
Yes, that is the saying.
Something like that.
It is. No, it's exactly like that. Is it? Yes.
And but when we win, it's a little bit more kind of frivolous, and we'll just drop in and see what these guys are saying, but not hang around. I tell you what, if we lose to the Tigers, I think people will be tuning in to share in the venting, because what worries me about that is they've just won 3 premierships.
Yeah.
All right, so if they've got to a point where they're going, if they win next week, they're 4 wins to our 5.
Mm-hmm.
So, God forbid that should happen, that a team that has quite literally won 3 flags and then decided to completely rebuild comes back in a matter of 3 or 4 years to go past us.
Yeah.
That's going to be a worry. I'm pretty confident North will go past us with the team they have. And, the Eagles chalked up their first win on the weekend against the Saints. So
they did.
We're I mean, it's all well and good to get beaten by the Bulldogs, but we got to hold up against the sides that are in the same kind of universe that we're in. And
the same milieu.
The milieu. Is
well,
that it?
I'm just checking because I think the game has been moved to Friday night. You okay with the Dreamtime game being moved forward to the Friday night?
That's interesting.
Still at the G, of course.
Yeah.
But
why did they move it?
Well, I don't know. Someone will know. Someone will know.
Sure.
Maybe to make it even more blockbuster. I'm not sure.
Wow. Okay.
It's it's. I'm concerned about it. I'm concerned about it.
Well, I think there's got to be some changes made to the team. So, we got through that game, I think, without injury, as far as I can recall. But the issue I think is, and although Goldstein won quite a fair share of the hit outs, I think was largely ineffective again in that game against English. Is it time? Is it time to bring Visentini into this team?
The double V.
Is it?
It could be.
I would love that.
Maybe they will.
The exuberance of youth. But I got to tell you, Goldie cannot keep going. And Peter Wright's doing his best.
Yeah.
But I think we're sacrificing his goal scoring ability by having him floating in and out of the ruck. He's just not able to settle in that forward position. When he was playing full forward against the Eagles in his comeback game, had Draper in the ruck. He was fine. Kicked 6 goals. Barely kicked a goal since. So I think
you might be right.
I think it's time that Visentini comes in and either supporting Goldstein or on his own. I don't think he can be on his own, but definitely Goldie needs some assistance. There's certainly candidates to be dropped. I think there's a few players that probably need to think about where they're at in their careers and could do well with a spell in the reserves.
Yeah, okay. All right. I forgot to apologise at the outset for my croaky voice. I had a bit of a social function on the weekend. It was one of those ones where you just can't hear yourselves talk
doing
very
some,
loud.
Habanas. Smoking some cigars.
Didn't do any of that. But apologies for that. Should have had more lozenges. Here we are.
Hey, interestingly, I noticed our guys weren't wearing their Indigenous round Guernsey against the Bulldogs, but everyone else seems to have worn their Aboriginal jumpers.
Maybe they're saving it for the big.
Well, the whole Indigenous round is now over 2 weeks.
I realise that.
So I think it gives the teams to wear it home and away. So if if you're travelling in particular, you can get to wear your beautiful new jumper a couple of times for your home fans. But we didn't wear it against the Bulldogs, so there's some interesting thoughts in that.
Well, I think we've got bigger problems, to be honest.
Well, maybe had we worn it,
you think? It's bad juju.
The Dreamtime spirits were looking down upon us.
Yeah,
and not very happy.
We'll grab at anything at this point. Whatever works.
Yeah. So that is a huge game for us and a very important game. Of course, it's preceded by the long walk to the G with the great man himself, Michael Long, who I think was up at Brisbane over the weekend attending the game up there.
Was he?
So let's hope he's not walking back from Brisbane.
No.
But Mickey Long will be, I'm sure, in the house. I'd love to have him back in that team. Although right now, I'm not sure they'd find a jumper big enough for the great man. He's certainly bulked up a little.
Yeah, well, he's enjoying his time.
He is enjoying his time.
So we look forward to that game with a little bit of trepidation, but we'd love to see an improved performance.
Couldn't be worse. Smoking, to be fair, could not be worse.
That losses like that just make you think about everything. Life, the universe. Are we living in a simulation? If so, why is this simulation? Are we being made to suffer so much as Don supporters? As you say, the Tigers, hey, they had their 3 premierships and now we're grappling with them.
But is it your simulation or my simulation? Or am I seeing you?
Oh, you think we're all having set? No, I don't think. No. They're not that good enough with their simulations. It's just one computer program.
Who does the simulation?
Them. They said.
Okay.
Those people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Very good. One last point before we wrap up, because I know we've got to run.
Yeah.
Back in 1992, we got absolutely spanked by Hawthorn, I think it was,
Right.
by 150 plus points. Someone will know. And it was doom and gloom, and it was a very young team. It was a team with a young Hurd, a young Mercury, a young Masiti, a young Ricky Olorenshaw.
I think I know where this is heading.
Before he got into the entertainment industry.
Right.
And you know what? We won the flag the next year. So we've got to always keep positive and think this is we're building.
Also, it's
we
the
are
hope
building.
that kills you.
Well, it does, but not against the Bulldogs. I mean, it'll kill me if it's if Richmond do us. That'll.
Yeah, okay.
The,
All right.
the Bulldogs have had a bit of a
what?
A bit of a thing on us, haven't they?
Yeah, they have.
Right.
Yeah, they have of late,
Yeah.
especially that elimination final of just a few years
Well, I
ago.
remember a couple of years back they kicked like 20
Yes.
goals in a row.
Through 23 goals in a row.
Jesus.
Yeah, that stung. That was a bad day at the office.
That was a bad day.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, all right.
That's it. I'm done.
Thanks again for watching.
Thank you, guys.
Please comment below, like, subscribe, smash the button, whatever you're supposed to say.
Yeah, smash it a couple of times actually. 'cause,
If you,
I
if
got
you
to
could.
pay some fines this week.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thanks again for watching.
See ya.
We'll be back soon.
Bye.
Bye for now.